Hello guys, Squiggle here, and welcome to my video about the changes that are happening to the Windwalker monk in BFA in 8.0. Just a quick disclaimer, this is not going to talk about the numbers per se, this is only going to be talking about the feel of the abilities and what I perceive is going to be best for next expansion. First off, I will be going over what we are losing out of our artifact weapon, what we are going to be gaining in the artifact traits, what is going to be on the GCD and what is not, and finally I'm going to have a comprehensive overlook of what our talents are going to look like for single target and AoE. So first off, I'm going to start the video by talking about the things that we are going to be losing. Now unfortunately we are going to be losing Strike of the Windlord as well as our artifact weapon as a whole. Now what this means is that we do not have this single target nuke that we used to have on live, and we don't have the free proc of the blackout kick that we are used to seeing on live, which gives us the extra chi and the extra damage. Now what this means is that we actually do have a replacement in our talents that we're going to get into later, and we are going to also be seeing a few more things that we are missing from our artifact weapon in our talent tree and in our Azeroth gear. Now honestly, I don't think this is too much of a hit. It might be a little bit weird to start off with, so with enough game time you guys should be able to adapt within at least a few weeks. The second thing that I'm going to go over is the loss of the legendary items. Now what this means is that for single target we do not have the legendary chest and we do not have the legendary helmet. Now of course the legendary chest, I think that it was a little bit cumbersome at times. I don't think it was a very great legendary in my opinion. It was the sort of thing that would trip you up a lot of times, especially when you were paying attention to doing mechanics on progression fights. Now, on the other hand, I do think that the loss of the helmet and the Strike of the Windlord artifact ability was huge, going from Antorus to BFA. Of course, this ties in with the loss of the tier 21 that made Windwalker so good in Antorus. So even though we are losing a little bit of overall damage at the start, it seems that we are going to be gaining consistency and we aren't going to be so reliant on these blackout kick procs in the future. On top of this, the main thing that I'm going to be missing is Mythic Plus as a Windwalker on live. Now, I really do like the wrists and I like the Sephuz when I'm in Mythic Plus. I feel like I can cast so quickly, do a lot of burst damage, and I feel like the damage is a little bit slower in Mythic Plus, but it's still up there for the Windwalker monk. So it's going to be a different playstyle. Maybe a little bit slower, but we'll just have to wait and see how the class scales with haste. Another thing I'm going to mention quickly is that there is actually a GCD change. There is a GCD being put on Storm, Earth and Fire and Serenity. Now, I don't know which of these are going to be specifically stronger. I know at the moment I'm doing slightly more damage with Storm, Earth and Fire, but what I can say is that with this change, all it means is that you use these abilities before you use your Touch of Death, and you need to make sure that you are front loading your damage into the Touch of Death rather than into your Serenity or your Storm, Earth and Fire. Next up, I'm just going to have a quick look at some of the Azeroth traits that the monk is getting as a Windwalker. So obviously we do have our starting trait. This is going to be Incite the Pack. This is going to be generally just a mastery stat stick that you give to yourself and to your allies. Now I think it's pretty cool that you can actually buff some allies around you, and this makes it very strong in Mythic Plus because it only targets 2 other people. Now on top of this, I am going to say that this type of trait is going to be the best for Windwalker rather than a Brewmaster or a Mistweaver, specifically because the Windwalker scales very well with Mastery, and we could even see this being our first or second stat behind Agility in the next expansion. Next up, I'm going to give you guys an example of what a first tier trait also looks like for purely the Windwalker. So obviously, Touch of Death is only going to be a Windwalker ability, and as you can see here, this reduces the cooldown of your Touch of Death by 0.1 seconds whenever you combo strike. So basically every GCD if you are playing properly. And what this also means is that your Touch of Death is going to do a significant amount more damage. I think this is going to be at least a decent single target trait. However, it's not going to be as strong as this one for AoE or for Mythic Plus. Now, an example of what you would see for the other specs, this is a Brewmaster one, this is a Mistweaver one, and you can generally cater these items to whatever you want to do. If you want to do a mix of the three, you can go for this one, which is pretty much average for all situations, or if you want to be a specialist, you can look at some of these other traits for your gear. Now, the thing to keep in mind as well is that these pieces of gear are resettable and you can get multiple pieces of gear. So even if you want to play 3 specs, you can still do them if you grind enough gear. Now onto the second tier traits. These are generally just going to be utility tier. They're going to either be defensive, they're going to be healing, they're going to be shield or something, or they are going to give you move speed. Now these are going to be so and so, they're not going to increase your damage that much. There's sort of a fight by fight, case by case sort of situation. So if you really want to be nerdy, you can look into these, but I don't think it's as necessary as the first tier traits. And of course we have the third tier trait, which is going to be a very simple increasing of eye level. Now obviously what this means is you want to be rushing your Heart of Azeroth up very quickly to keep up with these sort of items. Now this is one of the first ones that I got. It is a 280 item. However, if you got yourself a nutty, I don't know, 400 eye level Titan Forge piece of gear, you would need a huge neck in order to harbor the strength that it gives you. So I think this gear isn't something you should worry about too much. You should look more at maxing out your Heart of Azeroth traits and, you know, just doing it case by case along the way. Next up, we are going to look at the meat and potatoes of the Windwalker monk. This is going to be the talent changes that are coming in for BFA. Now I'm going to start quickly with the first tier. Now this tier actually hasn't changed at all, I would say, compared to the Legion build. However, what I am going to say is that any time you change the rotation for the Windwalker monk, you change the effectiveness of the Chi Wave or the Eye of the Tiger. Now, personally, I think that on live, Chi Wave is better than on beta, because you're going to see yourself overcapping more Chi on live than on beta, simply because of the tier 21 4 set. Now I believe that Chi Wave is going to be better AoE simply because of how you can manipulate your combos with it, whereas Eye of the Tiger might sim better single target. What I am going to say though is even if Eye of the Tiger sims slightly better than Chi Wave, I'm probably going to be running Chi Wave just so I don't have these bad streaks of luck and I can always reset my blackout kicks or my tiger palms if needed. Next up, we're going to have a look at Chi Burst. This one is just going to be exactly the same. Like I said, if Chi Wave is slightly weaker, then Chi Burst is slightly stronger. This might actually be decent for Mythic Plus, but for the meantime I've only been playing Chi Wave simply because that's what I'm comfortable with, and in my opinion it is a very safe bet all the time. On to the next tier trait. We are going to have exactly the same as we have in Legion. I really do like Chi Torpedo, just because I'm selfish. I like to get around places really nice and quick. If I am doing a fight like Iminar and we are doing the bridges nice and quickly, I do like using Tiger's Lust. But for now, I think that Chi Torpedo is something that I'll set and forget about 90% of the time. Next up, we have Ascension, Fist of the White Tiger, and Energizing Elixir. Now this is where it gets super interesting, simply because of this new talent, Fist of the White Tiger. Now the reason why I like this talent is because it actually uses slightly less energy than a Tiger Palm does, but it does a single target nuke and it generates 1 more Chi. And this is something that I feel has been missing for the whole of Legion, simply because we don't have a pure single target talent for this line. And in my opinion, it squares up to these ones pretty nicely. I think that Ascension and Energizing Elixir might be better for AoE situations. With the change of Spinning Crane Kick, I do think that it is a little bit of a waste. I think that Fist of the White Tiger is going to be set and forget for single target though. These two, they are going to be very close, but we'll just have to see what happens. So this line is a little bit controversial in my opinion. This one has Ring of Peace, Good Karma, and Tiger Tail Sweep. Now essentially, Good Karma is going to be our go-to max DPS talent and our rating talent if there are no ads to manipulate. So what this does is it redirects another 50% of your maximum health with Touch of Karma, so it is just a flat up DPS and survivability increase. Whereas Ring of Peace and Leg Sweep are they can actually be used together, which I think is amazing. Now, in my opinion, I think that these two talents are too good. We aren't going to be seeing any, if at all, of the Tiger Tail Sweep, simply because this would outweigh it in so many situations. And not gonna lie, I think that having Ring of Peace and Leg Sweep is gonna be insane for all monk specs coming into Mythic Plus next expansion. It's going to be crazy. Next up, we are going to have the tier 75 talent. This is going to be Inner Strength, Diffuse Magic, and Dampen Harm. Now, if you are having a lot of sustained damage happening to you, Inner Strength is going to be the way to go because it gives you just a flat 10% DR. However, if you are looking at steady magic damage intake or burst physical damage intake, these two are going to be your talents of choice. Now, honestly, I think for 80% of situations, I'm going to go into the fight with my Dampened Harm, just ready for that oh shit moment, waiting for, you know, me to be able to not die to a mechanic. I think the 10% isn't nearly as strong as 50% in some situations. However, Inner Strength is still going to be having its place. Next up, we have the tier 6 talent. This is going to be Hit Combo, Rushing Jade Wind, and Invoke Xuen, the White Tiger. Now, as it stands, it looks like Hit Combo is going to be our single target choice, Rushing Jade Wind is going to be our AoE cleave choice, and Invoke Xuen is going to be our 3 to 4 target burst cleave sort of choice. So honestly, I like how all of these spells have an identity, and I hope that Hit Combo isn't so overbearing that it's just flat out better than these two, because I think these two are pretty cool abilities. However, one thing I am going to say is that Rushing Jade Wind is a little bit awkward to use. You have to make sure that you aren't ever going below 4 energy, or you are just going to simply cancel the effect. So a lot of the time you're just going to be biding your time, you know, you're going to be using your Tiger Palm, you're going to be using your Chi Wave, and you know, your Fist of Fury, let's say. And in my opinion, this just needs to drain a little less energy, or just have some different effect to it. I think that giving it the Brewmaster Rushing Jade Wind would be a bit better, but you know, you can't have everything. And last but not least, we are going to look at the tier 100. This is going to be Spiritual Focus, Whirling Dragon Punch, and Serenity. Now, Spiritual Focus, essentially this is going to work like a cough. This is going to be our Convergence of Fate sort of thing. I think this is going to be pretty good single target and AoE. Next up, we do have the Whirling Dragon Punch. Now, Whirling Dragon Punch is simply just an AoE nuke. It is going to be good single target and AoE, just like Spiritual Focus. With these ones, it's really about how bursty and how sustained your AoE is going to be. I assume that if these are balanced correctly, Spiritual Focus is going to be more of a gradual DPS increase, whereas Whirling Dragon Punch, when timed right, is going to do some insane damage. And last but not least, we have Serenity. This has actually been changed a little bit. It has gone to 12 seconds from 8, and it has gone from 50% damage increase to 20%. Now, the reason for the increase is because it is on the GCD. Now, as you can see, I'm going to go up to this one. I'm going to press Serenity, going to put me on the GCD, and then we have to use our Touch of Death. Now, this might be pretty good because we don't have the tier 21 force set anymore. But I do believe that this is going to be purely a single target talent. So, last thing that I'm going to be going over is the changes that are happening to the abilities of the Windwalker that aren't on the talent rows. So, the main two that I'm going to be looking at today are going to be Spinning Crane Kick and Fist of Fury. Now, if you are familiar with these are our main AoE abilities on live. Fist of Fury, now it does more damage to your primary target than your secondary targets, and what this means is it is more situated as a single target ability. Now, obviously it does do good cleave, but that's just not its main purpose anymore. And secondly, we are going to look at spinning crane kick. Now obviously there are going to be a lot of situations when your Rising Sun Kick and Fists of Fury are on cooldown. So AoE, you're going to end up just defaulting to Tiger Palming one target, then you're going to spinning crane kick, then you're going to do the same sort of thing over and over again. Personally, I don't think this is the greatest change because it was just such a huge AoE nuke, and you could be really skillful with the way that you generated your chi and really ramped up to just being this burst monster. But it is what it is, and spinning crane kick is still pretty powerful. I think that Fist of Fury is generally going to be stronger simply because this has been nerfed by 40% for every single target that you damage. As you can see, spinning crane kick's damage is increased by 10%. That is actually 50% on live. So this thing isn't really going to outweigh Fists of Fury AoE anytime soon, like it does on live. Now that just about wraps up my video for the Windwalker in BFA and the changes that we are going to be looking at. Now honestly, I do think Windwalker is a little bit slower than it is on Legion, but I do think it is one of the funner classes that I have played overall. Now if you guys like this video, make sure to give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, you guys can see all of my social media and feel free to ask. I love talking about Windwalker, I love talking about most melee DPS classes. And as per usual guys, thanks for watching and have a good day, and see you next time.